Zombies are considered one of the pillars of the horror genre. These rotting corpses are found throughout films, TV shows, books, and video games. Despite all that, whenever it comes to conversations around zombies, people ask boring questions like, where would you hide from them, or how long do you think you could survive? But in today's video, I want to tackle this from a different angle. I want to start analyzing the threat and grade the zombies based on how well they would do their job of infecting everyone on Earth. So, prepare for the apocalypse with me as we analyze our undead foes. Firstly, let me establish who or what we're grading. As I mentioned before, zombies can be found throughout modern media, which is why I am limiting today's zombies to those found in video games. Yes, I understand there are many films and books with zombies, but I am a gaming channel, so I'm just gonna stay in the video game lane. Second, we will grade only the zombies from the top-selling video game franchises. People care more about these zombies, and their sales prove it. So, what are our top 5 franchises? In no particular order: Dying Light, Last of Us, Dead Rising, Call of Duty Zombies, and Resident Evil. Just missing this top 5 list is Left 4 Dead. Also, to be fair, Plants vs. Zombies should be on this list, but if a walnut and a pea shooter can stop your zombies, it's not worth covering. Finally, Call of Duty Zombies did get on this list by technicality. Call of Duty Zombies is one of the best-selling franchises of all time, beating everyone on this list combined, so with our franchises chosen, let's get into the criteria. Each franchise's zombies will be judged by 2 categories: infectiousness and strength. Infectiousness is self-explanatory. It's how effective the zombie's method, whether it be bite or airborne, is, and how that would work in the real world.
I'm gonna eat your brains, zombie! No! Come on, man!
Strength is a bit of a broader category. It can refer to the physical strength of the zombies, but it also includes how difficult the zombie is to kill and its intelligence. All these factors define how strong the zombie is. So with our franchise picks locked and our criteria defined, let's judge some zombies. The first franchise we're going to judge is Dead Rising. If you're unfamiliar with Dead Rising, the best way to summarize it is this. Each game features a sudden zombie outbreak taking over a city or mall, and your main character must use improvised weapons to survive and escape. The reason escaping is so important is because there's a timer that's counting down the seconds until the government blows your city to smithereens. But focusing on the zombies, is there anything that makes them special? The short answer is no. Dead Rising feeds into the stereotypical zombie that just stumbles and leaps out if you get too close. So in terms of speed, these things are slow and ineffective. The only thing that can vary from zombie to zombie is that male zombies, fat male zombies, female zombies, and cop zombies can all have different health stats. The general principle for Dead Rising zombies is that the heavier the zombie, the higher the health. So as of right now, you might be pretty unimpressed with Dead Rising zombies, and I wouldn't blame you.
Boring!
But there's one cool feature that Dead Rising implements in their zombies, and that feature is zombies becoming much stronger and faster at night. This effect on the zombies is the only saving grace for their strength. If we take Dead Rising zombies and toss them into the real world, they don't stand a chance. The only way they could infect people is by using pure numbers. Sure, I could fight off 1 or 2 zombies trying to grab me, but if I got cornered by 5 or 10, things could get complicated. However, if this infection occurs at night, zombies with increased health and speed present a much different challenge. Now, this could give the zombie virus an edge and the zombies a shot at surviving. But now it's time to talk about how these zombies spread their virus. Since they gave into the slow and stumbling zombie stereotype, biting is the primary form of spreading the infection. There's even a correlation in where a person is bit deciding how quickly they turn. But with all that said, the virus wouldn't stand too much of a chance in the real world. The reason is this drug, Zombrex. This wasn't supposed to be a Dead Rising lore video, so here's a quick rundown. Within the Dead Rising story, the first outbreak occurs in Willamette, Colorado. The outbreak is revealed to the public, but by then zombies will spread and become a nationwide problem. To combat people turning into zombies, a drug named Zombrex was created, which can slow the effects of the infection. Someone bit on the arm can take Zombrex every 12 hours to prevent themselves from turning, and they can live a normal life for the most part. Why is this important, you ask? This means that if the Dead Rising zombies were put into the real world, it would be possible for the world to develop a cure, which defeats the purpose of a zombie virus spreading and taking over the world. So for strength, I'm rating these zombies 2 Chuck Greens out of 5, and for infectiousness, it's 1.5 Frank Wests out of 5. Moving on to our next zombie franchise, The Last of Us. While there are many differences between The Last of Us and Dead Rising, one of the important ones is the setting. Dead Rising occurs within the days or even hours after an outbreak, but The Last of Us is set 20 years later. So grading infectiousness on The Last of Us is somewhat easier. We know the world has collapsed, and in the years post-outbreak, no one has been able to clean up the zombie mess. But let's talk a little bit more about the zombies themselves. These undead are infected with a fungus called cordyceps brain infection. There is a real-world version of this fungus, but it can only infect insects, and no cases have been found in humans. The reason is that the human immune system and body temperature make it impossible for the fungus to survive. But within The Last of Us, the fungus mutates and can infect humans. The way the virus is spread also presents a great challenge. The usual biting spreads the virus, but it also spreads airborne because of large spores. And imagine this infection dropping in New York City or London, where large populations present potential hosts for the fungus, and expanding subway systems and buildings are places for the spores to spread. So the fungus has ample opportunities to spread, and as seen in the games, it does so well. Unfortunately for the fungus, the entire premise of The Last of Us hurts its case for being the best virus from an infectiousness standpoint. If you've never played The Last of Us, the game tells the story of Joel and Ellie. Joel is an older, disgruntled man who's seen the world before and after the outbreak. Meanwhile, Ellie is a younger girl who's only grown up in this broken world, but she has a secret. She's immune to the fungus. Despite being bitten, she shows no symptoms of turning into an infected and could be the key to humanity's survival. Her existence proves that humanity has a chance of surviving. But enough about the virus, let's start analyzing the infected. The Last of Us' zombies are very different from Dead Rising's. Last of Us has zombies capable of using full human movement and can do things like climbing, jumping, and running. Another interesting thing about the zombies is the stages that they reach. When someone is first infected, they become a runner. They don't show any physical signs of the fungus, but their erratic behavior and eagerness to attack people quickly labels them as zombies. After they've been infected for a few weeks, they become stalkers. These infected show physical signs of the infection on their body, but they have slight changes in how they act. Stalkers will do exactly what their name implies: stalk you. They are intelligent enough to follow their prey and ambush it, but at this stage, they aren't much more difficult to kill. It's just this slight increase in intelligence that makes them more of a threat. After the stalker, the next stage is the clicker. Infected people become clickers after a year of infection. These horrifying creatures have extreme fungal growths on their head, which causes their eyes to burst off their heads. This means they are blind, but to the dismay of survivors, they've developed echolocation. Just like bats, they use noises to perceive the world around them and track down potential snacks. Another interesting point about the clickers is the fungus on their head doubles as armor. The fungus growth is so thick that a bullet to the head won't be able to kill it, which makes it very dangerous. And if you think that's bad, let me introduce you to the final stage of infection commonly found in The Last of Us: bloaters. These massive abominations occur after years of infection. They are essentially tanks, and with such thick fungal growths on them, they are extremely difficult to kill. While they are slower and less agile than runners or stalkers, that doesn't make them less dangerous. In fact, the 4 stages of the cordyceps infection ensure these zombies will become stronger and more of a problem as time passes without humanity stopping the spread. So the final rating for infectiousness is 4 funguses out of 5, and for strength, it's also 4 out of 5. The infection spreads quickly, and its stages make it more difficult to eradicate, but it's not invincible. Moving on to our next zombie franchise, Dying Light. Unlike The Last of Us, and similar to Dead Rising, the first Dying Light is set around a year after the outbreak in the fictional city of Haran. Our character, Kyle Crane, has been recruited by a shady company called the GRE to retrieve some incriminating files about them. Upon arriving, Crane is quickly introduced to the infected in the state of Haran. So, like Kyle Crane, let me introduce you to the roster of zombies trying to eat you. The first and least basic tier of zombies are these. Just basic, slow zombies that only present a threat when they attack in large numbers. But at one point, these zombies were virals. Virals are zombies that have recently turned, and oh boy are they a problem. Because they've turned recently, they are extremely agile and can climb heights that normal zombies could not. In fact, the game will punish you if you shoot a gun or break anything with viral screaming and running to beat your These guys can be difficult to kill as they will dodge melee swings and jump at you at speeds you have never seen before. But there's one ability these zombies are missing, and that's combustion, which is what bomber zombies do perfectly. These zombies are bombs with legs and with one sole purpose: to surprise the player. In my playthrough of Dying Light, these zombies were always around a corner or behind a door I opened. Another zombie type in Dying Light are screamers. These children became infected and await survivors like yourself to stumble upon them. When you come across a screamer, they let out an extremely high-pitched scream that stuns you. These little menaces have claimed the lives of many survivors who have accidentally wandered into a room with them. Next on the list are Demolisher and Goons. Goons are giant zombies around 8 feet tall and can use items like heavy rebar to attack people. Demolishers are also giant mutated zombies, ranging from former policemen wearing riot armor to regular people who have just grown to this massive size. These abominations are like the bloaters from The Last of Us, just giant hunks of flesh that require non-stop bullets and damage to take them down. If you were to take these guys and throw them into the real world, they would give the military a run for their money. Literally. With how much ammunition and artillery it would take to just shoot one of these guys down, the real threat to the world might be them bankrupting our militaries. But now it's time to talk about the zombie everyone really knows Dying Light for, and that's the volatiles. These horrifying creatures live up to their name. Not only are they extremely fast and versatile, but you could almost consider them immune except for one weakness. These creatures are allergic to or burned by, I don't exactly know what to call it, but they just hate UV light. You'll notice throughout Haran and other cities that UV lights are placed all around camps and safe zones to prevent them from attacking. So this means everyone better be indoors with UV lights around them for protection. Despite that, I must be the bad guy and pop the volatile balloon. If these creatures were inserted in the real world, all it would take is for a coordinated effort to put up UV lights for protection, and they become a far less intimidating threat. Instead, creatures like the Demolishers present a greater challenge, as you would need large amounts of ammunition and manpower to take one of these things down. This isn't to say zombies in Dying Light are weak, quite the opposite. I'm just pointing out that the larger and more dangerous opponent is probably the one that can attack you 24/7 and will snap you in half if it gets the chance. But enough about the zombies, let's talk about the virus. Within the Dying Light universe, the zombie virus is called the Haran virus. There are some theories as to how the virus began. Some say it was from a food source, and others say it came from aliens. No, I'm not kidding. That's real. Within Dying Light, you can find a crashed UFO. You can also get kidnapped by aliens within the DLC. Now, the alien cutscene is a joke, and you can hear the developers voicing it laughing.
Doctor, Mr. Doctor. Hello, mister. Wow, hello.
So, because of the unserious nature of how the developers treated it, I will assume the contaminated food source theory is how the outbreak began. What I should clarify is that this is still a serious threat. No matter where in the world, contaminated food could cause an outbreak that no government or health organization is prepared for. However, what makes the Dying Light scenario interesting is how the virus was initially stopped. Kyle Crane detonates a nuke to blow up Haran and eradicate the virus. Additionally, a vaccine against the Haran virus is created and mass-produced. The only reason it ever gets out is because of an organization called the GRE, which experiments with the Haran virus and makes an even deadlier variant that gets out. And while the latter variant is stronger, they both are spread by bites from those already infected. But circling back, what makes this virus difficult to rate is its complicated history. Government agencies contain the original virus and they stop its spread. Things only get out of hand when the GRE starts performing illegal experiments for military purposes. Taking this into the real world, it's likely that health organizations and governments can work together to quarantine affected areas and develop a vaccine. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee that other nations wouldn't experiment with such a deadly virus for their own gain. Actually, let's take a super quick break to explain something that might get this video demonetized. Introducing biological warfare, which is the intentional use of biological agents to harm or kill humans, animals, or plants as a weapon of war. In this hypothetical scenario, it would be an extremely powerful move for one nation to threaten another with a zombie virus if they didn't do what they wanted. So, if country A has been secretly creating a deadlier variant of the Haran virus, they could weaponize this and use it to cripple nations. I won't get too far into details, but imagine how tough this would be. Men and women who serve in their nation's militaries would have to turn their weapons on their fellow citizens who have become infected. Essentially, soldiers would have to invade their neighborhoods and cities, clearing out the hordes of zombies. This isn't even including the crippling blow it would strike to the nation's economy and local industries. So, a nation equipped with a deadly variant of the Haran virus has leverage over everyone else. And with that, I conclude my side tangent on biological warfare. Now, to rate the infectiousness of this disease, I have to give it 3.5 volatiles out of 5. This virus originating through a food source already makes it a dangerous contender, but the fact that the world was able to quarantine the area and develop a vaccine means there's still hope for the real world. We just have to ensure an agency like the GRE doesn't get a chance to experiment and make an already deadly virus even deadlier. Concerning the zombie strength, the Demolishers and Volatiles present great challenges in their own unique ways. Demolishers are like unleashing the Hulk, and I can only imagine how difficult it would be to remove volatile nests from underground systems like the one you find in New York and Beijing. This is why I'm giving them 4 out of 5 Demolishers. They aren't invincible, so they don't get the 5 out of 5. Now, let's turn our attention to the franchise that made it in by a technicality, Call of Duty Zombies. It's not too much of a stretch to say that Call of Duty Zombies is one of the most widely played game modes in gaming history. 6 of the top 10 best-selling Call of Duty games have zombie modes. Still, it will be difficult to pinpoint zombies for one reason. The story and lore of this mode are immense. In a game like Call of Duty Black Ops, you have zombie monkeys falling from the sky, cursed zombie astronauts, napalm zombies, and shrieker zombies. That's not including Black Ops 2, where you have a zombie inside of a Panzer Soldat suit, which allows it to chase down victims, and then there's Brutus, a zombie prison warden. Then later we're introduced to the Apothicons, which aren't zombies, but they did create zombies indirectly by spreading Element 115, so I feel like I'm throwing too much information here. Dropping the facade, Call of Duty Zombies as a mode thrives off the creativity and drive of the developers to make new enemies and threats for players to fight. Within this world, you have many enemies based on the map you choose. It's safe to say that no modern military could counter these waves of the undead. Interestingly, within Black Ops 1 and 2, we see a world caught in the middle of this, and the world ends with missiles being launched off the moon into the earth. Zombie strength gets 5 ray guns out of 5. Moving on to infectiousness, I have to introduce you to Element 115. This element is used by a group of evil galactic beings known as the Apothicons. These jerks use Element 115 to manipulate reality and universes that they invade. Within the Call of Duty timeline, Element 115 crashes onto Earth like an asteroid. At some point, it's discovered by Group 935, a team of scientists whose goal is to create weapons for the Nazis to win World War II. While experimenting with the material, they discover its ability to reanimate the dead into zombies. Unfortunately for the scientists, once they make this discovery, the undead start to spread and take over the whole facility. From that point forward, the storyline of Treyarch Zombies begins. But, stopping to apply this to the real world, we don't stand a chance. If Element 115 were to drop in the real world at some point in modern history, it's nearly guaranteed scientists and government agents would be exposed to Element 115. And while Element 115 can be used to reanimate the dead, zombies can also be created by exposure to it. The worst part is that these zombies are vicious. The zombies do not need to keep those they infect alive or intact. They tear apart their victims mercilessly and let them reanimate later. Also, I mentioned earlier that the world has missiles launched from the moon at it, so I think no matter how you put it, humanity is screwed. Because even if we get rid of all the zombies, the pure existence of Element 115 on planet Earth means these giant galactic creatures appear and make zombies themselves. Infectiousness gets a 5 Juggernogs out of 5. Returning to your typical zombie franchise, it's time to talk about Resident Evil. If I'm honest, I have never played Resident Evil. This game has always been the spooky game I would never touch, so to give you a proper video, I had to research a lot about Resident Evil and its premise. The first place I began my research was on the zombies. It was through multiple hours of watching videos and reading articles that I learned about the T-Virus and the Umbrella Corporation. To recap quickly, most of Resident Evil's zombie outbreaks occur or are centered around the research of the Umbrella Corporation. This extremely shady company uses what they call the T-Virus as a bioweapon and has not only infected humans with it, but also animals and other mutated monsters they've created. Things like tyrants, lickers, hunters, and Cerberus are extremely dangerous creatures made directly or indirectly by the Umbrella Corporation. These are all super strong, and if they were to escape into the real world with regular zombies, towns and cities would fall quickly. The perfect example of this is Raccoon City. This city is where the first leak happens and zombies start to take over the city. Chaos erupts, with many of the town's citizens becoming part of the undead horde. And with super mutated creatures alongside the regular horde, they present a challenge to any military. My only concern is the nuclear option, where a government would fire a nuclear warhead into an area with a zombie outbreak to stop the spread. Within the games, the nuclear option is always teased as the ideal way to stop the zombie threat. Of course, no government should want to drop an atomic bomb on the citizens of their nation. The fallout after the bombs drop is devastating to the local population and environment. But if it means stopping a zombie virus with the potential to kill everyone everywhere, I think they have no choice. They would have to drop the bombs and hope the regenerative properties of the tyrants don't help them survive the blast. I'm gonna rate them 4 tyrants out of 5 because they aren't invincible, but they are definitely strong. Let's now discuss Resident Evil's infectiousness. Oh boy, I would be lying if I said this didn't give me some trouble. With everything you've heard about the T-Virus and other variants contaminating the public, you would think it presents a global scale threat. The only problem is the style in which Resident Evil follows. Most of the games occur within isolated towns and cities which don't depict the virus spreading on a national or global scale. So if we were to throw the T-Virus into the real world, it would seem logical for small towns and cities to become infected quickly. It's just that without being given the opportunity to infect millions more, it won't do it on its own. Viruses like the ones found in The Last of Us and Dead Rising grew quickly. Resident Evil's never seems to get anywhere close to those, which leads to an infectiousness rating of 1.5 umbrellas out of 5. So, if we add up all of our ratings, what is the final order of video game zombies if they existed in the real world? Coming in last place is Dead Rising. To I hope no one's surprise, Dead Rising zombies have no real strength, and the existence of Zombrex already makes them quite inefficient at spreading their virus, which is why they ended up in last. 4th place goes to Resident Evil, which struggled with a similar problem of global scale infection. In 3rd place is Dying Light, which had a high strength rating, but when considered how much you would have to concede for this hypothetical global outbreak, it doesn't look that promising. In 2nd place was The Last of Us. The only reason it didn't get first is that the zombies aren't invincible, and the existence of someone like Ellie means there's hope for humanity. And 1st place is Call of Duty Zombies, which if it ever becomes a reality, we're all screwed, so just press the like button.